This is where we hope it works. Dead silence, eh? Looks like we've gone live now. So I'm going to begin to share it to different groups now. So if everyone could be patient, this takes just a little while.
Oh, it says I have to request audio. I have to request from the host to record.
Okay, I'll do that in a minute, okay?
Thank you.
Let me just get the sharing done first. It's now shared to Enfield Voices. Now it's shared to GlobalNet21. Now to Loving Local Enfield. Now to Love Your Doorstep. Now to Enfield Matters. Now to Enfield Charities Network, because they like us sharing. And now to, and this I think will be the last one for now, I'll share some other ones afterwards. Enfield Local Communities Together. Okay, so let's see if that is working. Yeah, I'm going to pin this to the top of two of the. Well, we've got plenty of time to go. We're doing fine.
You've got it down to a fine art now, Francis.
Yeah, but sometimes forget vital things like recording it. This time I didn't. I did when I did your one with Harriet. I forgot to record it. But because it goes on Facebook, you can download it from there. So it wasn't a problem. As long as it's streaming okay, you've got a backup, but recording's better. It is recording now, and so that's fine. Okay, so that looks all right to me. Hi, Helen. I'm going to put you off camera because for the first 30 minutes we do an interview and then you come on later, okay? So I'm going to stop your video. Hi, Julie. Good to see you. Haven't seen you for ages. It's great that you're on.
Hi. Yeah. Been furloughed, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if everyone can mute their videos, that would be great, because otherwise we might. I'll mute everyone, okay, and then unmute. Unmute you and unmute you, Katie. Everyone else will be muted so that we can do the first half-hour interview. And then when we've done the first half hour, I'll invite you all on video. You don't have to come on, but if you want to come on, you can come on to the video if you're brave, and then you can ask questions. But you can still ask questions in the interview, in the chat box. You can ask questions here. There you go. In the chat box, you should have that come up now. Okay, well, we're pretty soon ready to go. We'll start dead on 7 o'clock. Not 7 o'clock, it's 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock.
Goodness me. What's the matter with me? Where did those hours
I don't know what
go?
the time is anymore now. Right?
I know. Okay, we're going to start very shortly now. So I won't do a formal introduction because I've done a recorded one for that already. So we will go straight into the questions. And just to remind everyone who's come on, and thank you for coming on because it's great that you have, we're going to do a 30-minute interview with Katie and myself interviewing Leonie. You can ask questions in text. And then when that's over, I'll bring you all on video if you want to come, and you can ask questions on video. So let's start, shall we? Okay, Leonie, thank you for joining us today. That's really great. So the first question I'd like to ask you is, do you think you could tell us a little bit, very briefly, a little bit about your background and what you do?
Okay, so I'm an occupational and counselling psychologist, which means that I work in organisations and both clinically. I run my own expert witness company, basically providing psychological experts on demand. I also work as a psychological expert myself. And I also take clients in private practice for therapy. On the clinical side, I also work as a locum within the NHS in senior and lead posts. My specialism is dealing with the well-being of people in the learning disability community. So they're quite a hard to reach and vulnerable community, and I've done that across a number of boroughs through the London, as well as also supporting with improving commissioning framework and making recommendations for that. So that's a little about me. I also specialise in trauma, and that's a specialism that I have both in private practice as an occupational and a counselling psychologist. So I have supported organisations with regards to clients who might be undergoing experiencing vicarious trauma because of things that may have happened at work, but then I also support clients with post-traumatic stress disorder, as well as the main, just depression and anxiety and any other issues. But those seem to have turned into my specialisms.
Okay, well, you seem to do a lot. So Katie, over to you.
Yeah, that's a really wide range of experience we've had both in the private sector and also with involvement in the NHS, and perhaps we'll delve a little bit more into differences about that later. But obviously the hot topic at the moment is everything that's going on with coronavirus, and everybody's obviously currently in lockdown. What are the major concerns that people are coming to you about at the moment?
Okay, well, the major concerns are definitely about the uncertainty. There's lots of uncertainty about what's going to happen with work, if people are going to be furloughed or not furloughed, if companies are becoming unstable, and what that might mean, and that's in, it doesn't matter what kind of industry. It's like this, nothing's very sure at the moment. Also, we're now in a time where everyone's, we're on this lockdown, but before we were on lockdown, there was things were changing quite rapidly. They would say that we're likely to stop people from going out, and then it was we're likely to tell people that they're not going to work. So there was a lot of uncertainty in that period, and people trying to plan when it's very difficult to plan when you don't know exactly what's going to happen. Yeah. So there was also a lot of worry, just in general about, not so much on the work side, but just about, health, if people are going to catch this, and general health anxiety, about keeping yourself safe, and if you're doing enough or not doing enough. So there are personal concerns, and then there was also this anxiety about, others, because we're surrounded by other people, and, even if you're keeping yourself safe and others aren't, that then creates another level of anxiety. There's also worries about, whether basic needs can be met, just in terms of food, health, even emotional support. This worry when you're going to be at home for long periods of time, and you've not had to function in this way. So there's been a lot of worry about things like that. And also, No.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously there's a huge number of areas of concern, but do you find these are like slight anxiety problems, or do they range to real mental health problems as well?
I would say that they are generally on the anxiety side. So they're on the worry and, having concerns about something bad might happen. If there are any other pre-existing mental health conditions, and there's a likelihood that these can be exacerbated. So, for example, if you are already worried about, if you've got OCD, for example, you're in control of the fact that you might hand wash all the time and keep things very clean, but knowing that you could be contaminated by other people every time you go out, especially if you've been trying to manage your symptoms, is quite, this can lead to significant mental health concerns. So if there's already an underlying concern, then this situation in terms of anxiety can exacerbate that.
Do you think that the impact has almost been greater mentally than people worrying about the possible physical side effects? Obviously, we have seen pictures of people on ventilators, and that's a big concern that people don't want to catch it, in such a virulent way. But would you say that actually one of the main concerns coming through is more the kind of mental impact of the social isolation elements of all of this?
I think it takes 3 weeks to make a habit. So this is the thing, we're at the point where everyone's adjusting, even if they're finding it difficult. But there was a lot of worry about what was to come and how people were going to cope and how people were going to manage. And people, having to challenge a lot of negative beliefs around the fact that people believed that they couldn't cope, that it was not possible for them to function in this way because it was something that was alien to most people. Even if you do work from home, only having the privilege of going out for 30 minutes a day and being told that's all you're allowed and only staying in a particular vicinity is not something that we're used to. So I would say that that's...
The thing is that we're talking about social isolation. Now, social isolation may mean loneliness, and people suffer from that. But social isolation may be being isolated with your family. And so do you also get sort of tensions there and relationship problems?
I think that, from what I've observed, it's not so much about relationship problems, but that this socialization increases the level of worry and anxiety. So, you might be at home with your family, but if you've got a mother or aunts that you might see frequently, and that they actually live alone, this then becomes an anxiety issue for their loved ones, as well as the person who's isolated, because they feel that they cannot do enough. So they become more worried about the fact that that person is vulnerable and it's limited what they can do. So that, in terms of, isolation, this is what exacerbates the anxieties, the fact that everybody's hands are tied. You cannot go out. So you can't, there's only so much you can do. But then there's something about thinking about the ways that you can make sure that they're okay, working on what you can do and not what you can't do.
Well, let's come to the coping problems in a minute. But Katie.
So I was just going to say, presumably there's issues for people who may feel isolated, even if they are isolating with other people. Obviously, we've seen stories about an increase in sort of domestic abuse. I mean, not everybody is able to isolate happily with other people. Have you also seen an increase in people reporting issues around this? They might feel isolated just because they don't have that support, even within the household they're stuck in.
I've had experiences of people feeling anxious about being at home, and whether that's going to be a challenge to maybe the people that they're living with in terms of the relationship that they have. So we might talk about strategies or ways that they can get help, or strategies to help them to cope. So that is something that is an issue with regards to social isolation, but also in terms of any type of vulnerability. So not just domestic violence, but also in terms of, because I work a lot with people with cognitive difficulties. So it's also thinking about if they're vulnerable in the community, and, how much people understand about how to keep themselves safe, and, you know, how they understand what the symptoms are so that they can, you know, notify someone. So these things also are an issue when people are isolated and you're not able to really engage with them in the way that you usually would.
Also, I mean, I know that you do a lot of work with people with behavioral problems and learning difficulties. Now, they may face special problems in isolation. I mean, do you find that something you come across or have come across during this time?
Yes. With regard, I mean, the thing with people with behavioural problems is that, you know, being in isolation is the worst case scenario for them, you know. A lot of the strategies for to get people to calm down are around, you know, them going outside, having their space, and especially if they have things like ADHD, they have a lot of energy and they need to expel it. So these restrictions are very difficult for people with behavioural difficulties. They find it quite difficult. So it's about making sure that there are contingencies in place for them and second guessing what might happen.
So that's what we're going to kind of come on to actually, is the kind of what is actually possible in terms of coping strategies during this current period. Obviously, under normal circumstances, people may be offered sort of face-to-face therapy, but as these are not normal times, what therapy can be offered at a distance, or is there such a thing as self-therapy?
Well, yes, both are available and are very good to use. I mean, all the psychologists I know and therapists, including myself, you know, the moment that we were told on that Friday that there was lockdown, you know, I went to Zoom and video call literally that day. So, you know, the change was very quick for us. And that is something that is available. And what people are trying to do, I mean, you can get hold of, I mean, even on my website, there's a link to, you know, you can book an appointment to see me remotely. And that's something that most psychologists and therapists are doing. So you have that option. And actually, it means that we can all be a little bit more flexible around the time as well. And also, you know, if there are people in hard to reach areas, there's actually benefits because they have better access to therapy now. Because there are a wider range of psychologists and therapists that they can choose from. So
yeah, some people are putting some interesting comments up, and I mean, a couple of them are, you know, one problem that people face is boredom. I mean, I've never been more busy since I've been socially isolated, but some people are you know, finding boredom, and I don't know what you would say to people like that. And some people, you know, are single parents and they're not be able to get the food. They can't get a place on the supermarket delivery system. So these are all sorts of worries. Now, they may seem sort of small to you and the problems you deal with, but at this time they're big, aren't they?
Well, actually, they are big problems because, you know, I wouldn't consider them to be small because it's still about, you know, struggling to get your basic needs met, isn't it? You know, being able to access food is, you know, something that we should simply be able to do. But in this current climate, it's become something very hard. And also when you've got children, it's not easy. You can't leave them. You have to take them with you. And then, you know, that then becomes another issue for worry and concern because you're also putting them at risk when you go out. And so this just kind of perpetuates this cycle of other things to worry about. So, you know, one of the things is thinking about solutions of how you need to change the way that you live your life. Because we're not living in the same way, we're living in a different way. So, you know, one of the questions that I ask clients is about, you know, okay, this is where you usually go. Maybe you might go to the big supermarket and this is what you do and you do a big shop. But actually, if you're not going to be at work and you have more time, how can we structure the days that these basic needs can be met? Where can you go? Where can you think of around you where you know, the food that you need, you can access? It might be a bit more expensive, but at least you can get in the shop, especially with the kids. And, you know, I get them to think about what actually is available, what they can do, and also how they create a structure to their day. And this is a link back to the boredom, because even though you are at home, you still need to have some kind of structure to your day. If it means that you wake up at a particular time, you go have breakfast, you might go to the supermarket before it gets really busy, come home, do some work with the children. A lot of my, my clients are doing Joe Wicks in the morning, and it comes on early. So it's a good opportunity to know that that is the, the day starts with that. So there's something about creating a structure, working out what the plan is and how you're going to tackle things. Because if the large supermarket is out of bounds, then you need to think about what is accessible. What can you do? Because this is what perpetuates this cycle of worry when you fixate on the things that are not possible.
Yeah, empowering them to actually come up with new ideas about how they can maybe approach things. And I completely agree with you on the structure point of view, because it was new to me to be working from home full time, which I'm doing at the moment. And the first week, I admit I was a bit like, I didn't necessarily put casual clothes, didn't really, put any makeup on, didn't sort of keep the sort of normal structure. And then I thought, no, I can't keep doing this. And, from the following week, I tried to keep more of a regular plan, and I feel a lot better for doing it. So yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I imagine for a lot of people, though, the change is a big element for them. So although it's really good to be able to suggest, or you can go to a different supermarket and try different things, because I think sometimes that is the solution, especially if there's a particularly busy one, there may be other options. And we found that sort of small corner shops may have had more availability, etc. But how do people cope with change? Because for a lot of people who are vulnerable, they very much rely on a routine, and obviously this has thrown a lot of that up into the air. So
in terms of change to their routine?
Yeah, how can they best cope with that? Like, what advice do you give them about coping with that change?
Well, I think in terms of, there's something about thinking of the change positively, and what you are going to gain from that change, because you need to let go of the things that you can no longer have. So, okay, it's not going to be maybe what you might get, but are you going to find something new? Are you going to, actually you might have better engagements in smaller shops with the people that work there. So is it going to increase your level of social interaction? Are you going to learn about new things to eat? People, sometimes there are a lot of, ethnic supermarkets here, and, even when you go in there, they'll give you advice about if the rice or the potatoes are the same as the one in the other, in the normal supermarket. So you're able to get that social dialogue that actually we need when we're not going out very often. And if you are socially isolated, things like that can actually make your day. So it's thinking about what you can gain, but, reflecting on that, on a daily basis. What have I gained from doing this activity, instead of focusing on what you didn't get? Because the minute you focus on that, it's going to be very difficult to not focus on it.
So it's important to be positive, and you're telling people to look at alternative ways of doing things, to find new ways of doing things, and that could be really sort of therapeutic for them, and that's important. It's, in some areas, people are doing what's called social prescribing in GP practices. Instead of giving them medicine, they're sending them out to groups and classes and so on, that they can engage with people. Now, can we do that in this period of social isolation online? Is it important to give people some sort of idea that they can connect with people online, in groups, do classes, and so on, and that will help them a great deal?
It is very, very important in this time. I've got this big thing about, people realizing that you are not alone. You're not alone. You might be at home, but we are in a technological age where everything is accessible to you online. There are morning Zoom aerobics that you can tap into, where you feel that you're not alone. You can see everybody. You might do the class with them every morning, and you're able to feel that you're part of a social community. There's a lot of, even reaching out to people that and initiating Facebook or WhatsApp calls on video call, and creating groups to do those kind of things. There are choirs online who practice and you know, then they will all sing their parts together and, you know, record that and share that. So there are so many different ways that you can access people that maybe are not even in your circle, and feel on a daily basis that you are not alone. And this also links back to the structure thing, because a lot of these things happen regularly or periodically throughout the week. And even though you might be at home by yourself, it's an opportunity to engage with other people and feel that you're part of various communities, even though you might be at home alone. And also with regards to the exercise, that endorphins are very important for mental health and well-being. And, you know, it's what we prescribe for depression and anxiety as distraction, and to improve your perspective of, you know, what's going on. So this is kind of twofold in terms of improving the way that people are feeling and just not actually feeling alone.
Yeah, so it seems like there are actually lots of almost benefits to the situation if you can find those opportunities. We were talking a little bit about this earlier in the week in another webinar on resilience and mindfulness. I know that's something else you've talked about, mindfulness, and also something else called existentialism, helping people. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay, so I mean, you know, because a lot of people at the moment have been experiencing anxiety and they're worrying about things, you know, one of the things that I will talk to people about is about, you know, how much time you're going to give to worry. Okay. So, you know, you can choose whether, because these are things you can't do anything about anyway, half of them, right? So you can choose whether you're going to worry every day, every minute, every second about everything. Or if you're going to say to yourself, okay, I'm going to give myself some time that I'm going to worry about things, you know, it might be, you know, Friday at 6 o'clock. And this is the time that I'm going to worry about things. Maybe I'll have a worry box and I will write these worries down, and then I will decide at this time that I'm going to go through these things and I'm going to work out what I'm going to do. But the whole point of this is to not consume your mind all this time with the constant worry, because it actually relieves you when you know that you're going to think about those things on Friday for a start. It means that you can use your mind to think about other things and appreciate what's going on around you and be present in that moment, rather than worrying about things that are in the future or have already gone. If they're already gone, then you cannot do anything about them. And then if they're in the future, then it's not really affecting the now, and you're not actually realizing maybe all the value that's around you. So that's kind of one quite big thing about, you know, having a time to worry, but also empowering yourself and understanding that, you know, life is all about perception, and we're choosing to give it this label of worry. So, for example, you know, people might be, in terms of this coronavirus at the moment, you know, worrying about, you know, I don't know if they're going to catch it, if they're doing enough. But actually, if something's going to happen, you know, if you know that you've done as much as you can, there's not any more that you can do. So there might be other people that might not be anxious about that and actually might feel quite relaxed and content, is the feeling, with the fact that they're doing as much as they can do. So their feeling is that they're content. So the whole point is that we give these emotions power. So the same way that you choose to worry about it, you can disempower it, and you can choose that you're not going to worry. You're going to feel content with the fact that you've done a lot of things to keep yourself safe and others safe, and that you're doing as much as you can do.
Is what you're talking about now what you call on your website worrying techniques?
Yes.
Do you want to explain that? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, so this is what I'm talking about, which is linked to the mindfulness, and this is linked to the concept of that, you know, we give these emotions power. So really, we need to look at worry as just worry. It doesn't have to, we've given it the power of being something negative. But actually, it's okay to have a concern, but we don't need to let it consume us. Okay, so we give it this label of just worry, and we're saying, well, that's all it is. It doesn't mean that we need to allow it to consume us. It doesn't mean that we have to then get so caught up in these things that we can't do anything about, that we then start experiencing psychological symptoms, you know, sweating, panicking, gasping for breath, all of these things, because we're giving this emotion so much power. If we say it's just worry and it's okay to feel like this, other people feel other things in the same situation, then it's the start of disempowering that emotion. and devaluing it and turning that emotion into something else.
Yeah, I think one of the things people will do when they're very anxious about things, though, is often go looking for more information, or perhaps keep reading the news all the time, looking on Twitter, seeing what other people are saying. How do you think people should best avoid getting the wrong or bad advice about the situation and how to deal with it?
Okay, so there's something about making sure that you are taking your advice from trusted sources. You know, sometimes if people come to me and they're really worrying about something in particular, I will say to them, well, okay, we'll go away then and research that and tell me what you come back with. And then, you know, I'll ask questions about where did you get it from? Do you think it's reliable? Do what do you think that they were thinking when they were writing that? What was the purpose? How is it benefiting you?
Yeah.
How do you feel now that you've read it? Is it improved your experience? Do you feel better from reading it? What is it that you need to know? So a lot of the time people get caught up in the hype, but actually if it's facts that you're looking for, then maybe you need to specifically look for those. If it's numbers that you're looking for, maybe you need to specifically look for those. But actually, how are they helping you? I think in terms of social media, media hygiene, that people should they should give themselves a limit of how much they're going to access this kind of information and make personal decisions about where they're going to obtain it from. Okay, so if you decide that you might just have a daily digest once a day, you might watch the news at 10. You might not watch all of it. Maybe you'll just tune in at 10:20 and just get the last 10 minutes, and that's enough. Think about the time of day, because even though I say evening, maybe it's better, and I always advise my clients to find out the morning after. I think it's less anxiety provoking, and actually finding out last night before you went to bed is not going to help you or anyone really. So think about the time of day and the amount of time and limit that and stick to it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I always hate it when I get a worrying email late at night. I want them in the morning, not late at night. So, I mean, in a way, you're talking about positive psychology, aren't you? You're talking about not looking at the bad things that are inside of us, but the good things that are inside us. And are you saying that everyone's got that, and they must sort of come to the realization they've got that and bring that to the fore?
Yes, and that, you know, I think the thing is that we are in control, aren't we? Do not, you know, we have to be in a position where we're in control of what's happening to us and what's in, you know, and what's happening around us. So you need to create some boundaries in your day, in your life, in your week, especially because a lot of us are at home, that allow you to remain in control. Because the minute that you don't have those things and you don't have those boundaries, this is when the worry sets in, when the boredom sets in, especially when you're at home, and when it becomes out of your control and you're looking to everyone else for the answers. And then this perpetuates the panic.
And do you think it's okay to sort of ask maybe friends or family also to set those boundaries in a sense? Because I don't know, like some people have friends who particularly enjoy dealing with all the kind of dramatic news or are keen to spread all the negative news. But if that's not good for your mental health, do you think, you know, it's healthy to say to them, this isn't good for me?
Create your boundary, and this is about boundaries. Make a decision about who you're going to speak to about this. You might have many friends, but it's, you know, you create the boundary. You say, okay, I'm only going to talk to these 3 people and share messages with them. And, you know, choose your reasons why. Maybe that person, you know, always gives a therapeutic response, or maybe they always give facts rather than propaganda. And, you know, just, you know, you can create your own boundary around that. And you can, once you've created that boundary, and you don't need to tell others that I don't want the information from you because I think that it's terrible and it makes me feel terrible. But you could say to them that I'm restricting my, you know, who I'm sharing media with and the information I get to these people. So please don't send me anything. I can tell you the things that I get from them, but please let me know if you don't want me to, because then I won't. So you're creating this boundary. And the thing about boundaries is once you allow people to know that they're there, that there's a likelihood that they will respect them. You've told them. So. Okay.
So, you know, we're getting close to the end of this part of the webinar now. So if anybody wanted to find out more about what you do or to get advice, where would they go to? And what's the final positive message you would give people?
Okay, so where would they get advice in terms of anxiety, in terms of in general?
Yeah, I mean, from you, where would they go? Would they go to your website, or would they talk
So if
to you?
you'd like, I've got loads of blogs. I'm making sure, especially in this time, to, you know, keep going with the positive quotes and asking people to reflect positively on what's happened in their day and helping them to reframe. So you can go to my website, which is leoniecampbelltherapy.co.uk, or on my Instagram page, which is psychology_for_success. Or my business website, which is psychologyforsuccess.co.uk. So they're all kind of very similar. But I have got blogs on there about mindfulness. I've got blogs on there about how to keep the endorphins up and maintain exercise in this time of social isolation. There's even some links on different apps and things that you can try as well, which is quite good. Quite a few blogs on CBT and understanding the process of that, and you know, maybe how you can help yourself personally with that, as well as, you know, maybe accessing therapy if that's something that you decide that you want to go on and do further. So please do come and have a look at it, you know, any of my social media or my websites, and do feel free to send me a message.
Okay, yeah. Okay, well, thank you for that. And I mean, obviously, you can get a lot of positive, you know, messages from your websites, because I've looked at them and they're really, really interesting. Anyhow, I mean, thank you for doing this interview, Leonie, because I think you've helped people a lot. You've helped them think about how they can go, you know, go through their period of isolation positively, rather than dwelling on all the negative things and the bad things that they might think happen. They can actually create a new life, a new alternative way of doing things. And so I think that's been really, really useful. So thank you for doing that, Leonie, and we'll finish this interview now.
Thank you.
Of course, we haven't finished it, because this is where you all come on. So before you come on, I'm going to stop the recording so you don't have to worry about being recorded. Okay, I'm going to unmute everyone, and please feel free to come on and come on video as well. I'll
Hello
ask.
everyone, it's nice to see everyone's face now.
Yeah, come on video, please, if you want to. You can start your video, and I'll ask you to start your video if you want to. Oh, hi, Catherine. You're actually in the daylight this time.
Yes, for a change.
Last time you came on, we had a silhouette of you.
That's right. No more
Yeah.
hiding in the dark.
Yeah. Okay, everyone. Bill Kennedy and the others, I know you came on early. I'll try and bring you on. But does anyone want to start by asking a question or making a comment? Come on, Mary. You always have something to say.
Okay, so Graham said here, if you keep a structure with items such as reading, listening to music, listening to webinars, phoning our friends and making dinner, etc., then that helps to create a structure to the day. So I'd like to thank Graham for that, actually. And I would also like to add that it's very important to think about how you start and end your day. As human beings, psychologically, hello, Graham, circadian rhythms. Graham said here, if you keep a structure with items such as reading, listening to music, listening to webinars, phoning our friends and making dinner, etc., then that helps to create a structure to the day. Oh, I've just heard my own voice there. Sorry, I don't know why that was. But as human beings, circadian rhythms are very important for us. We get our cues from what's happening in the world by, you know, the sunlight, daylight saving, going to work. All of these different things, when we're hungry, tells us what time of day it is, okay? So the fact that we've all changed our routine, we really need to think about how we start and open the day. It's really important that when you get up in the morning that you open the window or the blinds and you accept the sunlight, because it doesn't matter that you're not leaving the house. You need to create this day in that you are opening it and that you are getting up and you are going to be doing something. And in the evening, you have to also make the bed when you get up out of bed. And when you go to bed in the evening, you need to make sure you close the curtains. Like, I know they sound like really small things, but they're really important for structure and circadian rhythms in your day.
Okay, anybody else would like to make a point or ask a question?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
We've spoken a lot about adults and routines and trying to stop the anxieties for adults. Do you have any specifics for younger children? Because I've got a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, and clearly routine is out the window for that age group.
Yes.
And they're struggling with isolation from their friends somewhat too.
Yes, actually, there's a link that I wanted to share with families. It's from the Royal. They've done like a really great hack, which is it's the Royal Children and Pediatric Society, and it gives you like downloads of posters to help them to understand coronavirus, to help them to understand why they can't go outside. It tells you about children with different conditions and how you might be able to support them in isolation. So I'm going to share that with Francis if I can, because it's a really good download PDF that I think is really amazing for families and children. I think that one of the things that I've advised my clients, we've talked a lot about this, is thinking about, how you change how everyone has a bit of autonomy in the house, because I think parents need to stop being so hard on themselves for a start, because I think it's very difficult to be at home trying to be a teacher. Some people are, furloughed, so they're not doing anything, but others are working from home. And it's very difficult, especially even if you've got more than one child, to juggle all of these balls all at the same time, because they're things that really take, a lot of attention if you're just doing one. So there's something about empowering everyone in the house to think about what the day is going to look like. Think about, we've talked about having activity schedules that are shared between the family for the day, and that they're visual, that there are options of things that the children can have. So you do like little Velcro things that you might stick onto these different parts of the day, and each child is allowed to choose 1 or 2 options of what they want to do in that time. So it might be that they want to play with a jigsaw, or they want everybody to do the aerobics together, or whatever it might be. And then in between those are the structured parts of maybe doing their homework or what they've been assigned for the school. And then there might be times that you might do things together as a family. So, I get some of my clients to think about maybe some of the things that they don't always have the opportunity to do together. And they can easily weave those into the day. So, some families are like baking together, doing the gardening together, they're doing puzzles together. And so they get to choose what the family task is going to be. And this gives everyone something to look forward to as well, because they've actually been in control of choosing. And it's, from what I've observed, it's helped to bring families together, but also creates, activities that everyone can look forward to, because everyone's doing something in the day that they really enjoy.
Okay.
May I say something, Leonie?
Yes,
Yeah, go on, Nina.
Yes, there are, some parents find that because of their backgrounds, their own upbringing, they find it very difficult. They find it a very difficult challenge at this time to homeschool their kids. And a lot of the things that you're talking about, it would be really nice if all the parents really could step up to the challenge. But a lot of people are not able to step up to the challenge. And it's simply because they have not been parented themselves. There are lots of parents who've not been parented themselves. In fact, I was in a conversation earlier on with a group of people talking about the same subject. And we were talking about the challenges that parents are having and how they find it really hard to organize the day. And in fact, what that brings up for me is the fact that they need to find some kind of routine that enables them to care for themselves first and foremost. And then they are able to really help their children in some way, shape, or form. When we're flying, for example, and they're going through the security measures, they're saying, if you're traveling with a child and you need to put your life jacket on, you really need to put yours on first before the child. So I really resonate with the fact that a lot of parents are struggling at the moment because they've not experienced that themselves. So they don't know how to do it for their children.
Yeah, I understand. It is a really big issue. And also there's the issue of the fact that, you know, for some people, not everybody, you might have children who are learning things that maybe you don't even know yourself. So it's difficult for you to be able to help them.
Exactly.
Right. So this is something as well that, you know, I've come across. And there is really a need for self-compassion and, you know, not beating yourself over the things that you really can't do. I mean, accepting that this is the limit of what you can do and working out what you need to do next. So is it that you need to ask the school for support? Is it that they need to give you some additional information? Even asking the friend if there's a friend that they can call, or if they've got another parent that they can reach out to and maybe buddy up. Because there's a need to actually not be so hard on yourself, because you cannot be a mother or a father and a teacher, and you know, it's a lot.
We live in a society at the moment where resources to support people like that are very limited. And so we need to find a way to be able to speak to parents about how they can, somebody mentioned, do self-therapy. You know, you talked about early in the morning is being a space where people can set their routine, but it's not just doing it on a practical basis, but it's in terms of being able to reflect, you know, center themselves. You know, that's the time when we have space to ourselves, that self-compassion. That's the time we have by ourselves to really reflect on how we handled a particular situation the day before that wasn't really great because of the impact it had on the child or on in my relationship with the child. So I would suggest that we begin to find a way where we can talk to people about that, finding that space to get to know yourself, to really understand how you tick, to understand what your values are and how to put those into action. Yeah?
I agree.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, go ahead, Leonie.
Thank you. I mean, it's a very good point. And I think that there is definitely room, and it's something that I've been thinking about in terms of, you know, maybe opening up a forum for, you know, parents, for them to have that opportunity to, maybe for me to facilitate that, but also for them to experience that they're not alone. Because this is again about isolation, and for them accepting that, being compassionate to themselves, because actually, you know, this is not because they cannot do it, it's because it's difficult to do. And that being kind to yourself, it's difficult to be kind to everyone else if firstly you're not being kind to yourself. So there is something about, you know, working on strategies every morning where you are kind to yourself. You say, you know, what is good about you, or the good things that you did the day before, or how, you know, the things that you tried to do that helped others, so that you experience that self-compassion. Second step is about reflection and about the things that went well, but maybe ways that you could have improved it, rather than how did it go badly. It's more about how could I have improved it, and what maybe who might I need to reach out to. So the talk is more about, it becomes more compassionate. It's the way that maybe you would talk to someone else instead of always beating yourself really hardly with a rock.
Okay, is there anyone else who'd like to come in? I'll come back to you in a minute. But
Yeah, I'd love to actually. On that, partly on the issue of structure and support, I found I could support my daughter by actually reading to my grandchildren. She has 5 children, sort of 7 and under, and they could all sit on the sofa and talk to me and read. They could read to me and I could read to them, and it gave her a little bit of space and a little bit of freedom. And I just wonder also if there's support there with grandparents, especially with all the online ability to communicate, whether it be Skype or Zoom or whatever, that you can actually, you know, it's actually, because I was missing them a lot. And then my neighbor had said, well, I read to my grandkids, and I'm like, oh, well, great idea, you know, because you want to do something a bit more structured than just chat. And sometimes we're quite a long time, and it's great. So just as a, you know, comment on support.
You know, that's amazing, Julie, because I mean, one of the things that I say to families is about thinking creatively about learning. That, you know, this is a different situation from school, you know, and you're not a teacher. So how can you be creative about learning? Yes, they need to learn particular things, but, you know, how can you access that learning in different ways? And I think what you're doing is one of those ways, and that's amazing. I also do the same with my goddaughter. I read her stories over Zoom, and also if they've got any activities that they're doing, even their performances, because a lot of those are online, you can actually watch them. So it means that you're also not feeling isolated, and you're still being a part of their life and learning as well. So these are
okay. Anyway, if I had to read to my grandson, it would have to be about Arsenal Football Club. And I don't know if our principals allow me to go that far. But anyhow, anyone else?
Well, as a teacher for 35 years,
Oh, Catherine.
I salute you, Julie, for that, because anyone who's reading to their child that is the most important, or grandchild, godchild, neighbour, whoever you're reading to, that is one of the most important bonding sessions. And you're teaching language, understanding, enjoyment of reading, and really I salute you for that. And Leonie, if you work with your goddaughter. Leonie, you've been great. I'm alone here and I'm quite happy here. And I've been writing down, I've been taking notes, writing down some things to share with others who do complain.
Oh, brilliant.
Because, no, you put it, I mean, everything you've said, I had to stop work suddenly with a sudden illness about 10 years ago. And so I've had to put that into the day, open the curtains, get up, wash, dress, make bed, breakfast, all of those things. You learn that schedule and you find that the day goes so quickly.
Yes.
I wonder where I had time to go out the door. I really do nowadays. But I understand that not everyone is feeling that way.
Oh, thank you very much, Catherine.
Anyone else?
Hello.
Mary.
Hello.
Hi,
Bill Kennedy.
Oh, hi, Bill.
I'm going to bring my wife in to explain something.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm Wynne. I'm Bill's wife.
Hi, Wynne.
Hi. He's experiencing huge anxiety at the moment. It's well before the virus started, really, but that doesn't help. Little things cause great anxiety for short times, and then it moves on to something else.
Could you mention the health?
Yeah, he has various health issues, and one of them, he was referred to the hospital before the lockdown, and he doesn't think he'll get an appointment now till goodness knows when. And so that's a big anxiety because he feels the issue should be looked at and it's not getting any better. I don't know, he asked me to speak for him, but I don't know if you can help with that kind of thing.
Okay, I mean,
I think in summary, when I think of the two major health things, one is a cancer ? The other one is a Parkinson's ? When I think of those two threatening things, I almost feel, well, of course you would be worried, you would be anxious, you would be depressed because of them. And because things are unresolved, the anxiety goes on, as it were.
Yes, he can't see a way of getting any help at this time.
So, I mean, you know, firstly, I mean, the first thing is to kind of validate that worry, because, I mean, it's understandable that you're going to be worried about your health if these are the issues. So, it's, you know, we're not going to downplay that there's something not to be concerned about. But there's something about thinking about, I know in terms of, I don't know how far he's got in terms of the assessment process, because, you know, one of the things, especially for people with suspected cancer at the moment, and any kind of cognitive assessment that's needed, that once you're linked in with the team, that they're not going to forget about you. You're on their radar.
Yeah.
So that's one positive thing that you need to kind of take into consideration, that, you know, even though they might be saying that it might not be appropriate for you to come in, they've probably thought about his health. Actually, they have thought about his health, and whether it's the cost or benefits of him going in.
Yeah.
What that might mean.
Obviously,
Yeah,
they don't
exactly. Yeah.
They don't want people going to hospital at the moment, basically, unless it's absolutely an emergency. I mean, that's the answer he gets from the surgery at the moment. But he has one appointment in May from which he's had a letter. So we're hoping that will go ahead. It hasn't been cancelled. But there's another one in the pipeline to a different department, a referral from which he hasn't had a letter. So, you know, he feels stuck with that one.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And I understand. But, you know,
but I feel if he's in the system will get back to him one way or the other eventually. But that's not good. That's not enough to help with his anxiety.
Okay, so it's not eventually, is it? Because the appointment's on the 1st of May. So actually, they're going to get back to him quite soon. Okay.
Well, that one, yes.
How in the meantime does someone relieve the tension that they feel, Leonie?
Yes.
What would you recommend?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the key thing here is that I suppose a lot of this, you know, we were talking about anxiety and worry before, is that a lot of it is out of his control, and that whatever decisions are going to be made, that the worry is only going to make his physical experience worse, right? Because Bill, you're going to feel worse, aren't you?
Yeah.
By worrying, you're going to be like, maybe you might get headaches, you might be on top of, you know, whatever else is going on, you're going to be physically feeling worse. So actually think about what you've got to gain by, you know, allowing them to let you know when they're going to let you know, because there's nothing that you're going to be able to do about it. But what can you do to distract yourself from this as well? Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, your wife, Wynn, seems lovely. She's come in here, she's talking to us. Okay.
Yes, lovely.
You know, when you're worrying, it means that you can't be focusing on all the things that are happening with Wynn here, right? So, you know, one of the things that you need to do, and I think that maybe mindfulness would be quite good for you, is to think about what's happening around you on a daily basis, right? I want you every day to at least twice a day take 3 micro breaks, okay? For 3 minutes, I want you can't be worrying, you can't be doing anything like that. I want you to take in what's going on around you. I want you to take in what you can hear. I want you to take in what you can see, and what you can feel, and what you can smell, and what you can taste, okay? And I want you to just be totally immersed in what is happening around you at that particular time. And I want you to do it at least twice, 3 if you can, a day. And the whole point of you doing that is for you to really start to appreciate what's happening around you now. Because when you're worrying, you don't know you're just so unaware of even some of the wonderful things that's going on. Okay. Even if it's watching Wynn smile or laugh, or that you're doing something together, okay? And I want you to document those things. And when you're thinking about worrying, I want you to think about all the things that are happening on a daily basis that are helping you to kind of get through this time. All the wonderful things that you're going to miss by worrying, okay?
Yeah.
Can you do that for me? When will you help him?
I think you are remarkable. Thank you very much.
Oh, that's okay. I wish you well. Okay, Bill.
Okay,
Wynn,
well,
thank you.
Yeah, I hope you get your appointment and everything's okay. And do what Leonie says, and I think that will be great. Is there anyone else who would like to say something?
Mary, did you want to say something? Because I thought I saw you waving.
Is Mary waving? Oh, there you are.
I know we are very lucky because we're near Parliament Hill. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, your sound is very low.
Okay. we've been going for a walk every day. We call it our Boris walk, and I've been very impressed with families playing games with their children and teaching them to ride the bike. And we bumped into people that we haven't seen for years. And in fact, I'm a little bit like Francis. I've never been busier because of all this Zooming. But are you going for a walk? They did say, a friend of mine who's a bit older than us, she got a message saying if you're over 75 you mustn't go out, but we're going out.
Yeah, we go out.
Yeah, and I just see the bright colours. I'm just entranced by it. I've never been more interested. There's just so much, so much to think about, and I've got lots of different projects and thinking, how on earth to, what's best to do about this and that, and trying to get ideas from different webinars I'm going to. But I think it's difficult for people who don't have online access. But about the medical thing, what I heard, I listen to Radio 4 the whole time when I'm not doing Zoom, and doctors are twiddling their thumbs because people are afraid to show up. Chase them. Just before the lockdown, it was just in the air. We weren't being told to stay indoors, but I was a bit nervous to go down to the surgery, and I phoned up, and I had a very strange thing happen to me where I just lost my balance. And the doctor phoned me back, and he told me, and he sent me something on an email, and it was exercises I could do to help myself. It was a link to something online. Chase them. After, they say that the beds are empty and that nobody's coming to them because they're scared. Chase them.
Everybody's there, so even though we can't go into the to wherever, health practitioners are there to help you, and people are at the end of the phone, so do use them. They want to help.
What can I do about
and don't talk over each other because it doesn't work when you're doing it online. Go on, Leonie.
No, I was just saying that, do use the health practitioners because they are there to help, and everyone's thinking about solutions that they can assist people with over the telephone. And so don't feel afraid to reach out. This is why I said, you are never, my motto, Francis, you did ask me, what would be the thing that I'd say, and I would say that is that you are never alone. Don't ever think that you're not alone. There's always somewhere there to help or to speak to, believe me.
The other thing that Mary said that's really interesting is, lots of people take life for granted, but in this period of time, lots of people are not. They're actually saying life is wonderful. And that's a positive message, isn't it, that comes out of this?
Yes, definitely. There's something about, and this is the thing about changing the I statement from what I can't, what I don't like, and appreciating actually what you're seeing and what is happening. The fact that we're being told that we can't even go out for very long means that we should be appreciating the time that we are out, appreciating the sunshine, saying good afternoon to people in the street because you haven't seen anyone all day. And these are the things that really should be heightened, and it's about reframing. It really is. We need to really use this opportunity, this time as an opportunity to really start feeling grateful for what we do have.
Okay, anyone else? We're going to finish in about 3 minutes. So is there anybody else who hasn't spoken who'd like to say something, who wants to? Anyone who has spoken who wants to say anything else? Wow. Silence.
Thank you.
Okay, well, let's finish it. I hope you didn't mind we had the first 30 minutes where we did the interview, just to let you know. I know Anne knows because we said this before, but the reason we do it is because we want to turn it into a YouTube video. And obviously we don't want this to be a YouTube video because you may ask personal questions. And so we don't do that, but the interview we can turn into a nice YouTube video, and then we have you come on afterwards to do your bit. So we do two things, and that's really worthwhile doing. So, you know, thank you for coming on, and it's been really good. And
Thank you
Yeah.
for
thank you.
organising.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's okay.
there were lots of positive things that came out of it, and thank you for Leonie for helping people with their, you know, their issues, which is great.
Oh, that's okay. You
And
know,
thank-
I was just going to say, do feel free to reach out if there are any other questions that you have for me. Just feel free to drop me a line, okay?
Okay, and thanks Katie as well for helping out. That's great.
Thanks.
Okay, well, thanks everyone, and you know, we'll do some more of these, and so, you know, if you come on, we may see you again. Okay, so
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
bye for now.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Leonie.
Right.
Bye. No problem. Thanks, everyone.